Hey everyone, this is Nana Gilbert Baffa from Tracking202, and once again, I want to thank you all for joining us on the webinar tonight. And today we have Ryan from BuyAds, and I met Ryan earlier. I think it was last year during a meetup in San Francisco, and he had mentioned what he was working on with his company iSocket, and it was something that I was pretty interested in because we were looking to also sell ads directly on Tracking 202. So we kind of got talking and we set things up, and we've kept in contact ever since. And so, if you want to buy ads from Tracking 202, I think we even have some placements that are available on Buy Ads, and it's been a pretty cool experience for us. And so
Yeah,
tonight,
and in your newsletter.
yes, we actually have some placements in our newsletter that will be going live as well, and it will all be powered um, by the BuyAds platform. So, Ryan, let's get started.
Sure. Thanks, Nana, for the awesome introduction. You forgot to mention that you did steal my beer from me that first meetup. But we still hang out, and yeah, I appreciate all of you guys being on this webinar. And this is I don't like to make these things too boring, and I think the most important part is kind of the question and answer at the end. So just to set a little bit of expectations, what I want to do is I want to go through this PowerPoint presentation with all of you, give you kind of an overview of just direct sales, why direct sales can work, and kind of the pain of direct sales as well, and kind of how we help solve that with buy ads. And so I'm going to go through this presentation, and then I'm going to go through just a quick live demo, and just kind of show you how you could buy off multiple publishers very quickly and easily through BuyAds, and then we're going to open up to questions. And I'm open to answering any questions about direct advertising, any type of questions that has to do with advertising. This is pretty much what I talk about all the time. So, all right, let me get started here. So, why buying direct is like owning a dog, and other awesome stuff you should know. Uh, yeah, like I said, I don't like to make these PowerPoint presentations too boring, and this will make a little more sense later.
Hey, Ryan, before you start, I thought I'd throw out a poll to everyone just to
Oh,
see
sure.
how many people have actually tried doing um, direct media buys. So this is a poll. Hopefully, you guys are seeing a question and answer, and just quickly just say yes or no whether we've got about half of the people who have voted. I'll give you like 10 more seconds to get your vote in, and we'll
Get your vote
close.
in now. I feel like we're on American Idol. I hope they vote for me.
Unfortunately, I think
I'm not on the list.
you're not on the list. Sorry.
Oh, okay.
Okay, we'll shut it off.
That's no way to treat a guest.
All right, I'm gonna shut it off now then. So, very interesting. So we've got 67% of the people on this webinar who have not done a direct media buy before, and
Oh,
33%. Yeah, so we've got some
perfect.
pretty new people on here.
Okay, good. Because I go over I'm going to go over some kind of high level stuff. So if you have any other questions that I don't cover, feel free to ask us in the Q&A. So let me start off here. I just want to introduce myself. So like Nana said, I'm Ryan Hupfer. Just a little bit of my background. I helped grow a startup that's now a U.S. top 50 website, and it's a publisher. So, not even the fact that it's a top 50 website is obviously great, and that was a lot of fun to work there. But I also learned a lot about publishers and how they sell advertising. And I worked there for a couple of years. It was actually one of the first startups that I worked at here in San Francisco. And I have a lot of knowledge from the publisher side, and I also have a lot of knowledge on people who would buy advertising from them, and kind of the pains and trouble that publishers have in accepting orders and selling stuff, just like a lot of buyers have trouble buying directly. So I was also the first hire here at iSocket BuyAds, and I'll explain this a little bit more in detail later. But basically, we're one company, but we have two products. iSocket is a product that publishers use to basically help sell their direct advertising. And then BuyAds is what advertisers use, and media buyers and anyone who's buying display advertising can use it to buy direct advertising from those publishers. And I also want to throw it in there that I put hummus on pretty much everything I eat. I actually had a sandwich right before this, and I had hummus. So it's probably good that you're not actually in the room with me, because hummus doesn't do a lot of good things to your breath. So buying direct in general, just kind of a broad definition, and this is kind of the definition that we stick to here at BuyAds, is finding and buying display advertising directly from a publisher on a guaranteed basis. So let me dissect that a bit. So when you do a direct buy, there's several parts to it, right? First, you've got to find the sites that you think are appropriate. You can do that in a lot of different ways. You can do that through using tools like Quantcast, Compete. There's some media planning tools. Maybe there's sites that you already go to, so you know the value of them. You basically have to find the sites first, and then you have to go through buying the inventory. And buying it directly means that you literally reach out directly to the people who run the website. It could be one or two people. It could be an entire team of people who have sales people and ad operations people, depending on the site that you reach out to and how large they are. And it's talking to them directly via email, phone, and figuring out how you can buy inventory from them and place an order with them directly for a specific amount of time, for a specific amount of money, and usually for a specific amount of impressions or time. So that's what we see as a guaranteed order. So, you know, it's a buyer coming in saying, I want to run my ad on your site. The person who runs the site saying, okay, well, here's how much it's going to cost. There might be a little bit of negotiation in there. You come up with a price, and then you buy it, and then they run the ad according to whatever the guaranteed order is. So direct media buying is like owning a dog, right? So it's awesome, and it's also really hard to manage. So I actually have a pug, so I'm very familiar with how hard it is to manage a dog. I had no idea. I love the little guy, but it's hard, you know. And so why is it awesome? Well, direct advertising and buying directly is awesome because it has flexibility. There's a lot less restrictions than ad networks. You know, a lot of affiliate guys I talk to, and a lot of people who are buying for offers and trying to buy through ad networks, even through AdWords and other things like that. I'm sure you've all noticed. I know Nani even told me this. They've become very restrictive to what types of campaigns you can run, the type of language you can put in your ad, the type of creative you're running, the type of landing page that you're going to. And the great thing about doing a direct deal is you're talking directly to the person who can decide whether or not it gets accepted. So, you know, there's going to be some publishers that might not want to run certain ads that you're running or that you want to place on their website, and that's fine. You know, then you go to the next guy and you ask them. But eventually you can find kind of a happy medium where there's going to be a publisher who will accept the order that you're running because they want that guaranteed money in hand as opposed to running ad networks on their site. There's scale. So buying the inventory you need in the time frame that you want it. So if you know that you want to buy, if you want X amount of traffic over the next month, there's really only one way to guarantee that, and that's through going and buying it directly. Now you could go to different ad networks and hopefully bid on certain things and hope that you get the traffic that you need, but really the only way to guarantee that you're going to get that amount of traffic that you need is through buying it directly. There's transparency, so knowing when, where, and why your ads are running. I think this is very important when you're buying media because you want to see what is working, what isn't, so that you can kind of trim off the fat and optimize your campaigns. So if you're running through some type of ad network that's running on thousands or potentially millions of different sites, it can be hard figuring out what's working and what's not. And a lot of them aren't very transparent in where you're running. Are you running above the fold, below the fold? Are you in content, out of content? What categories are you running on? You have no idea. And so with a direct buy, you can have that transparency. And then quality. So the other awesome part of direct sales is the quality. You're going to get the best impressions that website and that publisher has to offer. So let me explain this. So when you go to a website, right, it shows an ad, and if you first come to that site and this is the first page that you viewed on that site, your first few impressions, that you're shown from an ad when you first go to that site, they're most likely going to be the direct deals because they're up higher on the food chain on the publisher side. So as you click through the website or you come back multiple times in one day and they recognize you're the same person, or they have you frequency capped, then you might start seeing other kind of remnant network stuff that's going to start showing through. But the only way on most publishers to get that kind of first, second, third impression is to buy direct. And historically, there's been stats and analytics and reports that show that having that first, second, third impression will really increase the performance of the ad that you're running. So those are the great things. Those are the awesome things about direct media buying. So there's also the hard stuff, right? It can be super time consuming. And I know this more than anyone. So when I was at my first startup, I was buying 6 figures of advertising every single month. And I liked to do direct because I thought that it worked really well and I knew sites that would work. But renewing it every month, reaching out and emailing each individual publisher takes up a lot of time. And some of them don't answer. You never get response from them. So it can be pretty discouraging, and it can kind of eat into your work day. And that is something that's really hard to deal with. So then, like I said, there's email overload. There's multiple emails to multiple publishers going on at the same time, trying to get deals done. There's manual updates to your campaign once it's up and running. So, for instance, you start running the campaign on a direct publisher. If you were in like AdWords or something like that, you could flip out creatives fairly quickly. But with most direct deals, you'll have to send the creative directly to the publisher, have them update it. It can take time, and that can be cumbersome, sometimes. So that's something that's hard with direct sales. Then there's payment friction. Like, how am I going to pay for this? When am I going to pay for it? Am I going to do it through PayPal? Am I going to send you a check? Do you want a money transfer? Like, how do I do this? How do I send you money and do this deal? And then lastly, I just put fax machines. Like, the reality of this industry is there's a lot of awesome technology, but there's a lot of old school, like still Mad Men style people who are operating in this world, and there's a lot of paperwork, and yes, some publishers still fax things back and forth, believe it or not. So I want to give you an overview of kind of how we work with the publisher, because I think understanding the efficiencies that we have with the publisher can show you how we make it easy for you to buy from them and why they like to work with us on a direct basis. So we're making it real easy for them to basically sell directly to you. We have over 1,500 publishers who use our iSocket product, and they use that to package up and sell their best inventory to advertisers. For you, this means that you get access to lots of publishers very quickly without having to do like the one-to-one emails and hope that people respond. We've already made the connections with all these publishers. We have contracts with them, and they're waiting for us to send them orders. So there's no waiting around on them getting back with you back and forth a million times. They get the order, they approve it, and it's up and running.
Hey, so Ryan,
sure.
I heard this crazy rumor that Tracking202 is like the best, biggest publisher on your network. Is there any truth to that?
You guys are getting there. You guys are growing. You guys are growing strong. No, we've got a lot. To be honest, we've got a lot of large publishers. We've got a lot of the top 1,000, and we've also got a lot of kind of small to medium niche sites, which I think is kind of it's a good thing, because if you talk with a lot of direct advertisers, especially in the affiliate world, they like to go do buys on kind of these small to medium level sites for a couple of reasons. One, they're usually cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
Two, it's inventory that it's super niche, so there's not a ton of traffic, but it's traffic that will most likely convert for what you're offering.
Mm-hmm.
And I think the cool thing that BuyAds allows you to do is, there's no way you would want to do a buy from 25 different small niche publishers, right? You would probably rather buy from 3 or 4 big ones. Well, when you buy from those 3 or 4 big ones, you're going to spend more money, and you're not going to get as much coverage and as much kind of niche audience as you can with buying multiple. But when you're buying with BuyAds, you can actually buy all those 25 just as easily as you can buy one. So that's where the efficiency comes in, and you can even buy Tracking202.
Or not the company.
Yeah, you can't. didn't know you're up for sale. It's awesome.
Oops. I think we disclosed something once or
Oh
twice.
no! Somebody tell TechCrunch. All right, and then finally, helping publishers be more efficient, and transparent. That's kind of one of our big rallying cries is, let's be more transparent. Let's show publishers who's running on their sites, and let's show advertisers where their ad is running. We want to help both sides become more transparent. So we think better business and more business will happen when that happens. And like I said, publishers love that we're not a black box. I consider a black box being, people are buying, like if they're running an ad network and they're just kind of getting a check every month from this ad network, they don't know who's buying, what advertisers spending, what they're buying for, what niche they're trying to hit. But with us, they know who's buying. They can still create a relationship with you as an advertiser. We just kind of take out all of the stuff that you don't want to deal with and that they don't want to deal with. And then from the buying standpoint, we're making it easier for you to buy directly from the web's best publishers. So BuyAds, it's a searchable marketplace for media buyers. It's pretty simple. So we have all of these different publishers who use iSocket. They put their inventory into iSocket, and then we make it easy for buyers and advertisers to find through BuyAds. We work with publishers directly. So I think the cool thing is, like I said, you get the benefits of buying direct without all of the paperwork and hassles, and you're never going to use a fax machine. Tell us the publishers you want to work with, and we'll actually go find them for you. So, we have a catalog of over 1,500 publishers, but we don't have everyone. So if there's someone that you have in mind, if there's a website out there that if you have an offer and you know the website and you want to run something there, but you think it's going to be hard to get in touch with them, or you don't think that they're going to take you seriously because you're just one advertiser that's contacting them for one order, you can let us know, and we can reach out to that website. We've got lots of different websites, and we're very credible in the industry. So we can reach out to them, we can get them signed up, put them in our catalog literally within a couple of days. So then you can buy off of them directly through BuyAds. And just, there's actually no better way from like an iSocket sales standpoint, there's no better way to go talk to a publisher and have them start using our product than if there's an advertiser who already wants to spend money with them. So it's real easy for us to do, and it's something that we're more than willing to spend time on. And then the last point, we'll actually help you plan your media for free. Maybe you don't know what websites you should run on. Maybe you just pulled off a new offer and you don't really know where you should target and where the audience is at. And this is where our BuyAds Concierge service comes in. So the BuyAds Concierge is basically a team of people who only works with advertisers to help them find things they want to buy. And we only work with advertisers who are willing to spend over $5,000 a month, because if we work with people lower than that, it just doesn't make sense. And because it's something that doesn't scale very well, but for the people who use it, it works really well. So how that would work basically is you would send us an email. I mean, you could send me an email personally, say, hey, I got this offer. These are the types of people I'm looking for. Here's the audience I'm looking for. Here's maybe some of the websites I think that might work. Tell me, and then at that point, we would know what you're looking for. We would send you basically a built media plan that's ready to go and ready to be bought. You can kind of look through it, see what you like, see what you don't like. So keep what you want, delete what you don't, and then you can run the campaign from there. We basically kind of get you all the way to the finish line, and then you cross it. So we have lots of larger kind of direct buyers who are very ROI intensive, like lead generation and making sure that they're hitting a certain CPA. And I'll go over some of these advertisers here in a few minutes. But they love this concierge service because they've got a lot of other things to do with their time, and going and doing this research and having to kind of package it all together and go contact them one by one, it doesn't make sense for them. So we're almost like we've become kind of an outsourced media planning group for them, and we can just go and find, because we know our catalog pretty well, and we can go sign up new publishers if we need to, and we basically kind of just put it on a platter, and you can kind of pick and choose what you want to eat, what you don't, and then just place the order.
So, like, is this something like, do you do this internally? Because like, what if an affiliate feels like they're going to be competing with you on this traffic? Do you guys actually buy traffic that you use internally as well?
No. So we have nothing to do with the affiliate space. So I know that lots of work goes into like deals that you're running and sites that you're successful with when you're doing affiliate work. So yeah, all of that is completely safe with us. We have actually lots of affiliates that come in and use us month after month,
Hmm.
and we never use any of that data. We never run any affiliate campaigns, so all that stuff is totally safe.
That's cool. I think that's an important thing for affiliates to know that you're not just gonna take what you see is working and then go run it yourself. Um,
No, we've got lots of other things we need to be doing. We
so-
got a long list.
yeah, yeah. Your platform's been improving ever since I signed up last year, and it just keeps on getting better and better. Um,
Thanks, man.
there's a question here about the 5K minimum for the concierge. Is it?
Hmm.
It's just for that. It's not for like your test budgets. Like if you want to run your own campaign, you're not um, obligated to get in on a 5K minimum. That's correct, right?
No, and that's a
Yeah.
great question. No, so each publisher sets their own prices and they set their own minimums. And the great thing about working with BuyAds is when they put their inventory into iSocket and then it gets shown into BuyAds, um, they can put a lot lower minimums for buying than you would ever be able to get from them directly or from like one of their salespeople because we make the buying and selling so efficient for them. I mean, it's literally like a click of a button that if you went to them, like let's say TechCrunch, for example, right? Like TechCrunch, you can't even talk to their salespeople unless you're spending $30,000, right? But you can go into BuyAds and you can buy something for $2,000,
Hmm.
right? And then the same thing applies to other sites. So a lot of sites that wouldn't even talk to you or even email you back if you're not spending over $1,000, you could go in and spend $100. So it's allowed buyers to go in and kind of play with these minimums and run smaller campaigns, without having to drop a bunch of money. So it allows you to kind of test out multiple different publishers at the same time for smaller amounts of money, see what
Hmm.
works, and then kind of scale up from there.
Yeah, that's pretty cool for like affiliates who are just getting started with media buys. Because like one of the big stumbling blocks is like people feeling they need this big minimum to get started with testing out media buys. And so knowing that you can get in for a few $100s, and then if it works, then you throw your money into it and kind of scale up on that, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I mean that's what advertising is. Part of it is a crapshoot. You kind of go with your gut and you research, and it's not going to work sometimes, right? But you just want to make sure that you want to invest the least amount possible to get the information you need to make the decisions to spend more money, right? So you want to spend the least amount possible on these first initial test campaigns. Get enough relevant data and a good enough data set of a significant amount of impressions and stuff like that to get coverage and make sure whether it's working or not. And then once you know and you have that data, then you can go and double down on the ones that actually worked, and then just forget about the ones that didn't.
Cool. So here's a follow up. Is there control over the scheduling of the ads? Like, let's say that, like, like on the 30K buy on TechCrunch, for example, you're not being
Mm-hmm.
shown at like the crazy hours of the time that don't work. Are you actually getting the top premium spots on sites like this?
So so was the question, let me make sure I know what you're asking.
I
So is the
guess
question, can you pick a time to run?
Yeah, like how can you make sure that you're getting premium? Like, is it confirmed that you're getting a good quality premium traffic? I'm actually merging
Yes.
together two questions that was kind of the same question. Whereas, like, how can a website like TechCrunch uh, not give you remnant traffic with a system like BuyAds?
One, because we're selling at premium CPMs, right? So everything when we sell something for TechCrunch or sell something for any of our publishers, it gets from like a technical standpoint, the publisher has an ad server and that's what runs all of their advertising, right? And
Hmm.
usually it's split up into class one and class two. Class one being stuff that's guaranteed, stuff that their salespeople have gone out and spent money on. Some of or have sold, right? So some of it can be like highly custom stuff, but some of it is just like a traditional, just like 300 by 250 for a month for $20,000, right?
Mm-hmm.
When something gets bought through BuyAds, it's guaranteed just like those orders, and it gets put into the class 1 section of the ad server.
Mm-hmm.
So how an ad server works is it will run all of that stuff first, and then if for some reason there's a restriction or there's room and inventory left over, then that's obviously when remnant kicks in, and that's when it goes to class 2, and that's when it starts showing ad networks and different things like that. So to answer that question, TechCrunch still sells their inventory at the same price that they would sell it directly from a salesperson. So it's not like we're selling it like dirt cheap. We're selling it for about the same prices, but we're just making it easier to buy. And you don't have to go through the entire sales process that you would have to go through with like the TechCrunch salespeople, and we have a much lower minimum. So they figure that if they can bring in that money through BuyAds, it's such an efficient way to bring in that work. You got to think if a salesperson goes out and sells something for them, it's a lot of time. It's a lot of time not only selling, but it's also they have to pay them a commission.
Mm-hmm.
And then there's also a lot of time, maybe 60 to 70% of a salesperson time is actually selling, and then 40 to 50% of it is like the paperwork after it's actually sold to get it up and running. Mm-hmm. Right? So we literally take all that out of the equation, which just makes it a much more efficient process, which can allow them to do more negotiations. Now, when I show you here in a minute, like the BuyAds marketplace, you're going to see there are some higher CPMs just because it's a public number. Mm-hmm. But we also have ways to help buyers negotiate those prices. So what you see isn't necessarily set in stone. There are ways to negotiate, but the reason that we can run on the good inventory at TechCrunch is because we're a very efficient way for them to bring in that type of order.
Okay, cool.
And then was there a second part of that question?
Just on the timing, like choosing when
timing.
Yeah.
Right. So through BuyAds, there's no timing. Now the good thing is, if you need some type of special targeting, and we do have people who come in and say, I want to run, not necessarily time, but maybe they just want to run like in a specific like regional area, like geo targeting or something. Mm-hmm. We do have people, so in the BuyAds interface, you'll see there's really no way to do that at this point. It is on the list for us to do eventually, but through BuyAds, you're basically just kind of buying kind of run-of-site inventory on these websites, right? Now, some might have a category specific that you can buy, but most of it is just kind of general run-of-site. But the kind of asterisk after that is you always have a direct email and connection to the publisher. Like when you go to BuyAds, you see who the publisher is, who the salesperson is, what their email is. So a lot of times, if buyer wants to do something specific like that, they'll just go in and they'll email them first and say, hey, I want to buy something from you. I don't necessarily want to go through this whole process of, I'm going to buy through BuyAds, but I want to geo-target it just in New York. Is that possible? Mm-hmm. And usually the publisher will say, sure, like we can do that. Like just let me know when you send it through. Just shoot me a quick email after the order, or I'll just see the order come through if you buy it now, and I'll geo-target it once it gets into our ad server, right? So that type of, and it could happen with like time of day, right? If they want to change time of day or something, that's something that would have to be approved by the publisher, but it is stuff that happens. So, kind of a long answer, but basically, we allow you to connect with the publisher directly, so you can ask them any questions you want before you buy.
Okay, so there's that flexibility there if you really need it.
Totally. And in the future, I think, like I said, we have a million things we're working on, but one of them is inventory granularity, is what we call it. So you got to be very careful with how you allow people to buy complicated stuff. Because our whole thing is let's keep it simple, and if there's a way, to just send one email and get an okay, and then everything else is still easy, then it might not be worth building a super complicated system to manage it. But that inventory granularity thing, like getting the exact inventory that you want at the right time at the right place. I know that's very important, but it's also something that can really confuse a lot of buyers. So we're trying to keep it like if you buy through the concierge as well, if you come in and spend $100, you're probably not going to have those types of options. Like a publisher is going to accept your order, but they're probably not going to want to spend any additional time kind of targeting in 3 or 4 different ways. But if
Yeah.
you're working with a concierge and you're spending a decent amount of money, we have relationships with those publishers to where if you need some type of special targeting, we're more than happy to help you out.
Cool.
And most publishers are cool with it. You know, you're sending them
Mm.
money, so and it's easy for them to kind of get it up and running. So adding a piece of targeting is really simple on their end.
Cool. All right. There are a lot of questions here, but I'll wait till we get to the Q&A section.
Okay.
But if there's anything relevant to your slide, I'll stop you though.
Sure. So yeah, so that's how we make it easier for you to buy directly. And then this is just something I wanted to point out. So in the BuyAds marketplace, there's basically 2 ways that you can buy inventory. You can buy it on a CPM basis, which means you're paying, it's a cost per 1,000 impressions. For all of you trivia buffs out there, it's actually cost per milla. Milla is the Latin word for 1,000. You'll probably see that on Jeopardy one day. So CPM is cost per 1,000. So that's basically you're spending X amount of dollars for 1,000 impressions of your ad to show on their site, right? And then there's tenancy, which is cost per week or month, and we actually offer quarter as well. So you could buy for 3 months. So these are the 2 ways we offer. We don't offer CPA. We don't offer cost per click. Most publishers don't offer that type of functionality. These are really the 2 ways that most people offer up advertising, with the majority offering by CPM. It's just an easy way for them to offer their inventory for you to buy. Some people will, like a lot of larger publishers, like TechCrunch, for example. I know I keep bringing them up, but TechCrunch is interesting because they offer, probably 75% of their inventory on a CPM basis, but then they also offer a couple smaller units on a tenancy basis that are a little cheaper and more affordable. And that's mainly because they want to be able to keep the price range of their advertising low enough to where like startups and stuff can come in and buy.
Yeah.
So we have another big fashion publisher called Lookbook. It's lookbook.nu actually, and it's a great fashion site. And they sell all the traditional stuff on CPM, but then they kind of do the same thing where they have some tenancy units that are probably the best performing units that we have, like almost across the board, because it's a price per month and they have a ton of traffic. It's a small unit. It's like a 125 by 125, which is pretty small, but you get a lot of exposure and there's a really high intent of buying on that site. So lots of people click it and lots of people are curious. So, the tenancy ads can sometimes be a pretty good deal because you're not paying for every single impression that you're showing. You're just paying to show there for X amount of time. And you'll show, actually depending on how they set it up, usually you show for 100% of the time, or you might rotate between like 2 or 3 people, depending on how they have it set up. So then obviously, but what about performance advertisers, right? I mean, all of you guys are all about performance. The affiliate world is based on performance. So it's, I got this amount of money, I'm going to buy X amount of media with hopes that this stack of money is going to turn into 3 stacks of money, right? I mean, that's the ultimate goal for any affiliate. So they put money in, get more money out. So I think these are just some kind of things that are more focused on performance advertisers, and what I've seen are kind of benefits and functionality that are specifically great for the performance advertiser. So get access to better rates than going directly to publisher. Like I said, we can help you negotiate. So a lot of rates that a publisher might give you on kind of a one-off order basis, if you're just coming in for the first time, they're probably going to charge you, full rate card, which is going to be pretty expensive unless you're really good at negotiating or you're spending a lot of money. In our marketplace, you can go in and you can buy at a lower minimum. And if you're spending, a decent amount of, let's say you're spending, at least $500 or $1,000, we could actually send them an offer that's lower than the CPM that they have in the marketplace. So we have the ability to do that. And actually, publishers are okay with that because if they don't sell it directly, like let me just give you an example. So let's say that a publisher's selling an ad for a $15 CPM, right? So they're selling all their direct stuff at $15 CPM. A lot of larger buyers are coming in and potentially getting it at like a $12 to $10 CPM because they're buying a lot of it. And then whatever they don't sell at that $10 to $15 CPM, they're then sending to the remnant, like ad network, kind of the whole group of like the whole remnant just pool of advertising, right? So it goes out there, and then it gets sold for usually $1 to $2. So they've got this amount of inventory that they're getting paid a lot for, and then they're taking everything else and they're going to sell it for a low amount. So if you as an advertiser come in and say, hey, I don't really think I'm going to spend 15, but I could spend $7 or $6 CPM, then we can send them that offer, and it's it's better for them to get that $6 to $7 CPM than letting it go to the remnant market and only getting a $2 CPM. So negotiating is big. So if you contact me, after this and you want to try out some tests, just remind me that you want to negotiate some prices, and we can help you do that. So you can also buy at lower minimums, like I said. So, and there's no need for out clauses. A lot of direct buyers that we work with now usually traditionally set up out clauses for the publishers they work with, which means they basically set up a contract that says, okay, I'm going to place an order with you, and it's going to be a $15,000 order, and it's going to be over the next 2 months. But if over the next 2 to 3 days, I don't get the type of return that I need on these ads that I'm buying from you from this order, then I get to break the contract, and then I don't have to pay you the full amount. So the problem with that is publishers hate it. They don't like doing deals like that. It's a lot of work actually for the buyer to set up all the contracts and all that stuff. I think the good thing about BuyAds is you can actually buy at lower minimum. So instead of setting up that $15,000 order with an out clause, after 72 hours, just buy at a lower amount. So buy a $3,000 order and just run it all the way through and see how it performs. And then if it works, buy it again. If it doesn't work, and if it doesn't work good enough, then don't ever run it again, right? So it allows buyers to go in and just forget about the out clauses. And a lot of larger direct buyers love that because it actually saves them a lot of paperwork. So then there's no strict rules on creatives and landing pages. The publishers are approving these creatives and like the URLs that you're sending the landing pages, not an algorithm. So, and you've got a lot more freedom depending on the publisher you're talking to getting your ads up and running, right? So you don't have to worry about AdWords rejecting your campaign or using certain words or capital letters or certain links, to different pages, to offer pages or whatever. You can link to whatever you want as long as they accept it. So I think that's a huge benefit of buying direct. And then the next thing I want to show is that's pretty much all the information I have about BuyAds and how we work. But I wanted to show you just a few advertisers that we work with right now, and they're all performance advertisers. So one's Rickshaw Bagworks. I'm not sure if you've heard of Rickshaw. They're a really good bag company here in San Francisco. They're not a huge outfit, but they do spend quite a bit on advertising. They spend a lot on the AdWords, the kind of Facebook stuff, but they also buy a lot of direct. But they're very particular about how it performs. So they're very CPA focused, and they're not just out there throwing these ads out there for branding purposes, right? I mean, to be honest, I don't think there is there are brand advertisers, but even the brand advertisers still want some type of return on what they're spending. So they're going out, you can see a lot of the creatives, right? I mean, they're running these campaigns, they're tracking them, and they're seeing how many bags are bought based off these media buys, right? So what they usually do is they go broad, they'll test different verticals, especially in the beginning. They'll buy multiple properties, they'll see what works, and then they scale it up from there. So, I think the first time they bought from us, they bought probably 20 different properties, right? With smaller orders, saw which ones worked, and evaluated after the first month, dropped the losers that didn't really work very well, and then kept the winners, and then threw more money at the winners, and then asked us if we had any other publishers that they should be testing out, because we get new publishers in all the time. So, that's where the BuyAds Concierge comes in, because they're always running orders, and we're always kind of thinking about them as we sign up new publishers. So if a new publisher comes in and we think that Rickshaw would work, then we reach out and we say, hey, here's another one we should put on next month's media plan, and they usually say okay. So they keep buying, they keep testing, and we just keep helping. Another one is AppSumo. I'm not sure if you guys have heard of AppSumo. They're pretty big in the tech space, and they are incredible advertisers. Big on lead generation, getting people's emails. They know the LTV, the lifetime value of their customers, and they aren't scared to spend money to get it, right? So, these are hypothetical numbers. Let's say that they know the lifetime value of somebody coming in if they get an email is $100, right? I mean, they'll go out and they'll spend $90 to get that if they feel like it works, right? Just to get them in the system. So they're the same way. They'll find, buy, and scale, and they are always testing out new publishers. So we're sending new stuff to them all the time. They're trying different verticals. And it's just kind of an ongoing process. And just like with Rickshaw, we're always there to help them out. So I guess an interesting thing with AppSumo is we have inside of our system, we have the ability to, if you like the order that you place, we give you the opportunity to subscribe to that order, basically. So what that means is it will automatically renew every month. So AppSumo and several other people love this feature because, even though BuyAds is easy to use, if you buy an order, if you buy a campaign and then it runs out and it works and you want to renew it, you still have to kind of click into your account, renew it. It's still, it's pretty easy. It's a couple clicks, but you still have to actually physically go there to reorder. But with this subscription, you can actually, after you place your first order and it's halfway through, we'll send you an email. We'll say, hey, here's your order. Here's how it's performing. If you want to subscribe to this order and reorder automatically, let us know. And then you can go and basically check a box and subscribe to that order. And AppSumo does that with several publishers where it's just kind of on autopilot. They know that the traffic works, they're willing to spend the money, and they just keep it running in perpetuity, unless something happens. And most of these publishers, they just keep getting good ROI every single month. So there's really no reason to just go renew it every single month manually. So that's another cool feature that we've actually added. I think we added it less than a month ago, and they're using it quite a bit, and so are other advertisers. And then Full Sail University, very similar to like University of Phoenix, for example. They have a lot of online courses, and they are really big on the CPA. They're running a campaign. They're the ones that they were big on out clauses. And to be honest, if they do a big order with us, sometimes they'll still do an out clause. But we've been lucky enough that everything's performed really well and they've never had to use it. But some of these old habits that these buyers have are hard to break. But other times they just buy at a lower minimum and just keep it running. So they use the BuyAds Concierge as well. They're repeat buyers month after month. And I think the thing that they really like is they don't have a ton of people that are actively kind of researching and finding new publishers to test out. And we save them a lot of time and effort on their direct buys because we're basically like a member of their media buying team. Like we're always emailing them, talking to them, seeing what else they would want to buy, if there's any other degrees that they're coming out with. Because you can see on this slide, each one of these ad units is basically a different degree. So they have sports marketing, web and technology, you name it, they've got it. So each one of these is kind of for a different niche, so they need to go out and buy publishers that are relevant to those niches. So when they come out with new degrees, we'll set up a list for them and kind of we'll send them the different publishers that we think will work for the particular degrees. So Full Sail is a great advertiser and definitely very high performance. So that is actually the end of the slides. I'll put my information up here. What I want to do next, Nana, I don't know if you want me to answer any questions at this time, or if you want me to go into the demo.
Well, someone wants to know what kind of numbers these advertisers are spending. I don't know if you can answer that, but if you can.
I can't give you exact numbers because obviously that's information that we can't really share publicly. But I'll just say they're well over, um, they're well over the concierge limit. Let me just say that. I mean, they're using the concierge service, so um, it's they're not scared to spend money in places where they're getting good return. I'll just leave it at that. I mean, these are people who, these advertisers, they basically kind of have limitless campaign as long as you can help them find the right sites. Because they track their stuff so well, and they know very quickly whether or not it's working. So, I can't really give you exact budgets, but I mean, these are big advertisers. All three of those that I showed you, like Rickshaw's probably the smallest, and they still spend quite a bit um, on the stuff that they know is going to work. Especially, they won't go out there and be too bullish with the first, maybe they'll spend 10% of what they're probably spending now in the beginning just to kind of test out different things, and then when you get more comfortable and you get used to the concierge service and you start buying more stuff and certain ones are working consistently, then I feel like you kind of open up and you get a little more aggressive, right? So in the beginning, I think people are a little more sheepish, and that's okay, But I think in advertising, more than most things, you've got to be willing to spend a little bit of money to figure out what works, right? So you got to spend that money to make a little bit of money. Is there anything else that you want to do before I go into the demo?
I guess someone wants to know if like they have target CPA or ROI
They
or
do.
CPM. Okay.
They all have target CPAs. Absolutely. Obviously, some are higher than others. Like the CPA for buying a messenger bag is obviously going to be, to acquire someone to buy a bag is going to be a lot lower than somebody to come in and sign up for a class at Full Sail. I've known just from past experience of some of these, this isn't Full Sail's CPA, but I have talked to other people, like University of Phoenix style people who, they're willing to spend 250, 300, 400 bucks per lead, as long as they can get people into the right programs, because they know that once they get in the program, they have all the kind of these people are basically data companies, when it comes to advertising, because advertising is such a big part of their business, because they always have to be finding new people. I mean, which is like any business, but some are obviously more media buying driven than others. So, like something like Full Sail, it's an online school, and they're out finding people online everywhere. I mean, they're spending a good amount of money, and they're willing to spend a good chunk of cash to bring in a new lead. And they've got stuff set up. I mean, where I used to talk to the University of Phoenix guys, and somebody will come in and they've got like call centers, they've got, you name it. Like if you sign up and you show some type of intent to basically sign up for one of their courses, I mean, they're going to get in touch with you quickly, and they're going to start putting you through the funnel. So I mean, they have it down to a science. They're almost more of like an online marketing company than an online university, because that's really where a lot of the magic happens behind the scenes.
I see. So they're basically just trying to get as many people into their funnel as possible, because then they can convert them in the back end and stuff.
Right, getting the right people in the funnel too. Right. That's obviously important. So get the people in, but also get the right people. And I think with someone like Full Sail, getting someone in is usually, I mean, I don't know what their conversion rate would be, right, from like somebody signing up, but it's a long sales process, and they're willing to spend the money to go find those people.
I see. All right. Why don't we go? Like, I think you had a demo to kind of show how the buying process is.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yep. So I just want to show a quick demo here, and let me pop open my browser.
All right. Well, while you're going to that, there's another question. How about retargeting? How is that done with your system?
So retargeting is not done through our system. So retargeting would need to be done, because retargeting is done over the remnant networks. So retargeting is not done as a guaranteed order. So, how retargeting works, just from a general overview, you've got a site, you put you can do it through Google Display Network if you want, right? Through AdWords. Excuse me. So you can actually go in, say, okay, I want to create a retargeting list. When you create a retargeting list, they give you a piece of code, right? So you name the retargeting list, like, okay, I want to retarget everyone let's just say everyone that comes to my site, I want to retarget, right? Or you can retarget certain people that go to certain categories or pages, or people that go all the way to like the end of the funnel, then drop out. You can target those people. I mean, people do really intricate retargeting. So what happens is you set up that list, they give you a piece of code, you put it on your site, and then you start dropping cookies on these people that visit your site, right? So if I visit your site, then you drop a cookie in my browser and you follow me for like the next 30 days. And then that's how Google knows to show the different ads at the right times for the right number of times to the right people across all these different remnant networks, right? So there's several retargeting companies out there like Retargeter, Fetchback, Chango, you name it. There's a ton of there's actually one that's in our same office building called Telepart.
Mm-hmm.
So there's lots of people that do retargeting, but that is not what we do. So we don't do anything in the remnant space. Everything you buy through iSocket is guaranteed, which means that whatever you buy is going to run. Like you're not going to bid on it. You're not going to do any of that stuff. It's going to be whatever you order is what's going to be accepted, and that's what's going to be run.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But retargeting is interesting. I mean, it's a pretty powerful tool, and it's actually pretty cheap. I haven't found a whole lot of, like, we do some retargeting for iSocket and BuyAds. So like if somebody comes in and buys something, or just kind of looks around at BuyAds, look at our marketing pages, then we retarget them with certain messages.
Mm-hmm.
And I think part of it is just kind of we haven't seen a whole lot of conversion from it. There's a little bit, but I think just being there in front of people, and stalking them a little bit across the web, I don't necessarily think that's kind of a bad thing. Now, you don't want to overdo it. You can easily overdo it. And you got to make sure to set the frequency caps and stuff like that on all of your campaigns. But, as long as you don't get too crazy to it, it's something that I feel like you should always try. There's not like one silver bullet with advertising. Like there's lots of different things, and I think you should try them all. Like direct display, especially guaranteed display through BuyAds is just one. Right now, for some people it'll work great. Some people it might not work at all. Right? I mean, to be honest, like for iSocket and BuyAds, we early on we tested out a lot of different campaigns on like different advertising-based sites and like marketing sites and stuff, and it just didn't really pan out. I think it got us some decent branding, so there's a little bit of value there, but we've pretty much found that any type of advertising for us is really hard because we're a very niche B2B business. And if we're buying, we can't really buy search advertising because not a lot of people search for what we're offering because it's just so niche. And it's you kind of go through all these things, but you always want to try and be one of our multiple lists. So there should be kind of a multi-prong approach. And you should try lots of different channels because one or two of them are going to work for sure. But don't just limit yourself to like buying ads on Facebook or doing retargeting or just doing AdWords or whatever you're doing, right? So just kind of try everything because I think it's worth your time, and it's good to kind of even learn that expertise in the market and understand all the different ways that people are buying media and buying traffic.
Cool.
Okay, so this is what BuyAds looks like. Right, so we've tried to make this very simple. There's a video here if any of you guys want to watch it. It's pretty entertaining. So we've made this very streamlined, and we're always kind of iterating on this product. So something I was going to do was I was going to do like a quick little sports campaign. Like let's say I have an offer that's some type of sports product, right? And this is all, I just want to let you know, this is all dummy data. This is our demo site, obviously. So some of these rates might not be right. We've kind of taken all the data that we have and kind of mixed it all around so that it's all anonymous. But it'll give you a good idea of how the system works. So let's say that we want to buy some sports inventory, right? We have maybe a sports product or an ebook or something, that we want to get some leads for. So you go to sports, and there's a list of all these different sports publishers. Some you might have heard of, some you might not have heard of. Like I said, we have a lot of publishers, and some have larger traffic than others. Sports actually isn't one of our great verticals. We've got a lot of great tech, a lot of great fashion. We've got some pretty good auto. We got some good health sites. We have some decent sports sites. We just don't necessarily have like a ton of huge ones yet. But I, a lot of these sites are very effective and they're very niche. So like all trails, right? So what you can do is when you see a potential publisher that you think you might want to buy from, I'll pop it open in a new page here. So that's all trails. And what we do, what's that?
Oh, that's my computer.
Oh, what did it say? Is
It
it
tells
talking
me
to you?
what time it is every hour.
Oh, 6 o'clock, Nana. Time for your vitamins.
Yes.
Okay. I wish my computer talked to me. So here's what basically a BuyAds page looks like for one of our publishers, right? So we have some of the basic information you might look up about them. We have their audience. There's the sales contact I talked about with like the advertising information in the email, and then here's kind of general information. These are the tags that they have tagged themselves as: health, fitness, travel, outdoor sports. And let's say, okay, this looks pretty good. This is an $8 CPM. Um, that might be a little expensive for my taste, but I'm just going to test it out a little bit, and I'm just going to add it to my campaign. So I literally just added it to my media plan, right? You can see it says added, and then up here in my shopping cart, it says there's one item in there. So what I'll do is I'll close this, and I'll actually go back here, and I'll refresh here. It'll be in my cart. So you can see now there's a price, right? So it was an $8 CPM, and the publisher sets their minimum. So this publisher's minimum is $400, right? So at $8 CPM, that's a pretty low minimum for a publisher to have. If for some reason you wanted to buy something lower than that, you can always email them, and then we can kind of figure out how to put the order through. But that's still a pretty low threshold. So you can see stuff like in the list here. You can also see grid if you're more familiar with that. I kind of like the list myself. So then let's say you go through, and you can actually go to page 2 if you want. See what's on there. I'll just add a couple more. Midwest sports fan. Let's see what they have. So you can actually click this details thing, and it just kind of opens it up. You don't have to open it up in a new page. If you want to see all the details, you can go here and click this more details button. So they've got, I'm looking for sites that have 300 by 250s because that's the creative that I have. So looks like this is $50 per week. So what I talked about was earlier, there's CPM and tendency, right? So these are CPM units. So I'm going to pay $1.25 for 1,000 impressions. And this one is $50 per week. So, it's above the fold, right, top of the sidebar. If you want to go to the site and actually check it out, you can actually click into this and open the link and see where that spot actually is, which is sometimes nice to see. But I've seen this site before, and that's a pretty good unit, so I'm going to go ahead and add that to my cart as well. You can see now it's $600, so it just added $200 more as my minimum. And actually, I don't think this adds the minimum. I think it adds it's a little bit above the minimum, so I'll show you once we go to the actual shopping cart how you can manipulate how much you want to buy from each of the publishers that you add to it. So I'm going to close that, and let's just do one more here. Okay, here's a gambling site. That one looks good. So it's 225 CPM. I'm gonna add it. Okay, so I've now got 3 different publishers. Instead of sending emails back and forth, hoping they get back to me, seeing what their prices are, that could potentially take a couple weeks. I just did it in maybe a minute, and now I've got all these in my shopping cart. I can go to my shopping cart, and I call this a shopping cart, but it's actually your media plan. You basically just built your media plan, right? So up here at the top, you can see like potentially like the total amount of visitors that all the impressions that these sites have combined per month. You can see what size of creatives and banners that you need to upload for these campaigns. If you want all of the campaigns to all go to the same URL and all use the same creative and run for the same dates, you can do this kind of global configuration at the top, right? So you've got these three sites, Beyond the Bets, All Trails, Midwest Sports Fans. If you want to go ahead and say, I'm okay just putting one tracking URL on this, I'm going to upload one creative for now. You can always add more creatives later to each one if you want. And you know the dates, then you can just pick it up here, right? You can just choose and pick, and that's fine. Or if you want to go into each of these publishers individually and add them here, then you can put in the URL there, right? So, I'm gonna here. I'll do it in. Let's save some time. Um, I'm gonna do it globally. So I'm gonna just make it go to BuyAds.com. I'm gonna upload an image for this. There we go. Hit the wrong button. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look up full sale. Creative here. Talk amongst yourselves.
Someone wanted to know about what is this question again? When they buy, is it first impression, second impression, or third impression? I think you talked about that earlier.
There we go. When they buy, did you say it's first, second, or third impression? Is that what you asked?
Yes.
So when you're buying, I'm not necessarily saying you're going to be first impression every time, but I'm saying the orders that go in directly and guaranteed always go before the rest of the inventory, right? So if you're buying, one of these was a tenancy ad. So if you're buying a tenancy ad, that thing is going to show up 100% of the time if that's how it's set up, right? So you go to that page, every single impression you're going to get, right? Now, if you're buying it on a CPM basis, you're going to be showed to people early on in the user session. So like if I go to Midwest Sports Fans and it's a CPM campaign, that first, second, third, fourth, impression is most likely going to be something that they've sold directly, right? And those are usually the impressions that kind of resonate with people when they do these different kind of marketing studies. Usually those are the ones they remember, those are the ones they click on. So they usually have a higher click-through rate and they remember them better. So when you buy directly, I'm not saying you're always going to be the first, but you're going to be like in the first few impressions as compared to when it gets kicked into the remnant stuff where that's going to show and like fill in all the gaps.
Okay.
Right. That's one of the benefits of buying direct. So here's the creative I'm going to add. That's 3x250. It's for sports. So you add that, right? It gives you a little example. You can see it if you want, preview. So I have my URL, very simple. When do I want to start? As soon as possible. You can actually change the day too if you want it to start on a different day. And I'm just going to say I'm going to run it for a month. So what's going to happen is when I submit this order, so this is all set up. I could have gone down here and done like individual ones for every single one, every single order. If I wanted each one to have a different creative, you can see it's kind of filled out all the stuff already from the top. So even if you want to kind of fill out something basic in the top and then maybe fill in like tracking URLs at the end, it's always kind of nice to put it in the global. And then it just kind of goes down through. You can change it after that. So you can see this creative is now attached to every order. So you can now, you see your total. Oh, something else I want to show you, the impressions, right? So This is a tenancy ad, so it's going to ask you, do you want 1 month, 2 month, 1 quarter, 2 quarters, 3 quarters, 4 quarters, right? Um, I'm only going to do a month, but if I want to do 2 months, it would update it, and I could buy 2 months, right? And it updated the date as well automatically. So I'm just going to do 1 month. If I want to change the impression, so this is 50,000 impressions for $400, and that's the minimum. So if I want to spend more, I can just kind of drag this up and spend whatever I want. So, maybe I'll do, you can actually just kind of go in here and say, okay, well, I want to spend $500 on this one. Right, so $504, 63,000 impressions. Right, so you can change any of this stuff you want. And to be honest, if you're like, I put all these into my shopping cart, I don't really know if I want this one, it's kind of looking lame at this point, you can just knock it off, right? So what you're seeing now, if you work with the BuyAds Concierge, we'll send you, so we'll basically build something that looks like this, and then we'll click this share button, and we'll take this link, and we'll send it to you. So you can actually go in here, and all this is already built. All you have to do is pick the ones you want, add the pricing you want, how much you want to spend, delete the ones you don't like, keep the ones you like, add new ones if you want, and then all you have to do is buy it. So it makes it really easy for you to get a campaign up and running.
Okay, cool. So for running these campaigns, can people use their own ad servers to serve up these ads, or is this something you provide? Like, how does that work?
That's a great question. So we basically work with 2 different types of advertisers. Advertisers who come in and buy through BuyAds like this, right? And they have just a standard banner and a URL that they might want to track through, things like that, right? Just kind of a traditional, kind of lower to mid-level advertiser, right? And then there's people who want to do a lot more tracking, have their own ad server, have some type of maybe they don't even want to track it, they just want to put in some type of third-party creative so that they can kind of update it when they want to and not have to update an image all the time.
Mm-hmm.
Those types of advertisers, we work with a lot of them as well. Like those, like Full Sail, for example, right? They only use third-party ad creative that they're pulling from their ad server, and that's how they're doing all their tracking. That's how they're putting all their creative out there. So for them, we have an internal tool that we will put that order in for you. We can still kind of send you this type of cart, but you won't actually buy it through this cart, because through this interface, you can't use any type of ad server code or third-party ad code. You can only use images. But if you do want to use some type of third-party ad code, and even if you're not spending the concierge amount of money, just let us know, and you can actually go ahead and buy it. Like what some people do is they'll contact the publisher and say, hey, I want to use a third-party ad code. They say, okay, go ahead and buy it, and then they buy it, and then they let us know, and then we just swap out the creative. It's actually real easy.
Okay.
But if you only use third-party ad creative, it's real easy to work with us. We basically just have to send it through a kind of internal order management system that we have. It still sends it over to the publisher the same exact way. It's a little more hands-on, because if you're using some of those more complicated techniques, most likely you're probably spending a decent amount of money. And if you're spending a decent amount of money, we want to make sure that you get the most out of what you're buying. We don't want to make it harder for you, obviously. We don't want to make it time consuming, but we want to kind of make sure that you get the best experience possible. So if you have those types of ad creatives, just email me, or you can go to BuyAds and you can find the contact name, and we have chat and stuff, and we'll allow you to use those third-party ad tags. In the future, we might allow it through BuyAds, but to be honest, when you open up yourself to allowing third-party ad tags to run on these publisher sites, it can get kind of hairy, just because with malware, and you never know what's the code, and you have to have some type of system to check the third-party ad tags and all that other stuff. When we do it on our own, we have a much higher level of communication with the person that's buying. We trust them, and then the publisher can trust that the creative's going to run fine without any type of problems.
Okay.
that make sense?
Yeah. And
Cool.
how about creative types? Like someone wanted to know whether they can be animated and stuff.
Sure. So each individual publisher can elect to allow flash files. And each individual publisher, usually you need to read their description. Like in their descriptions, a lot of times they'll put like what their creative restrictions are, like if they allow animated GIFs, stuff like that. If they do allow them, how long can they be? Can they loop? All these other things. And these are also questions that, if you really need to, you can. Most, I would say, like 95% of our publishers allow any type of image. So animated GIF, like if it's crazy though, and they think it's going to like freak people out, they might reject it. And when if you put in a creative that the publisher doesn't like and they reject it, they send a note along with it, so you don't just like get blindly rejected. So they'll send you a note usually that says, "Hey, I like your brand. I like what you're advertising. I don't have any problem with that. But like your creative is something that I don't really want to have on my site. Do you have any other options?" Right? And then you can send through another order, update the creative, and then they can approve it.
Okay.
So usually there's not a whole lot of restrictions when it comes to like animated versus non-animated. I mean, if it's an image file and it looks halfway decent and the publisher's okay with running it, then yeah, they'll just approve it.
Mhm. Um,
So, oh, you have another question?
yeah. How about ROI? Do you have ideas of like what the general target ROI is for clients that you work with?
It's all over the place. So that's a hard question to answer because,
Hmm.
like I said, the ROI really depends on your individual business model, right? And like what you're trying to get out of the campaign. Just like each affiliate deal has kind of a different CPA. I mean, every single person kind of has different levels they need to hit.
Hmm.
So, like the full sale, like I said, is willing to spend a lot more money than rickshaw bags, who is just kind of getting the everyday consumer to buy a bag, right? So there's there's calibration that needs to be done, and it's different for every person. So it's really hard to say who gets the most ROI. Now, obviously, some products and some services are much more well suited for advertising and getting like direct conversions from advertising, right? If there's like a lower barrier of entry, if there's not a high price point, like AppSumo, for example, a lot of what they want is just your email, right? So it's pretty low entry. Like they obviously want you to buy like their deal of the day or whatever, but if
Hmm.
they can get your email, they're pretty happy because then you're in the system and then they can kind of nurture the lead after that, right? So for them, the amount that they need to spend to get someone isn't real high because it's a lower barrier of entry. Now, Full Sail, who needs you to sign up all the way through, like not just fill out a form, but then end up signing up for a course and getting financing potentially and all this other stuff, it obviously gets a lot more complicated.
Right.
So I'll go ahead and go to the next step here. So, it's pretty straightforward after this. Um, so your company, your product name, BuyAds, just kind of ask for some basic information here because what's going to happen is when you buy, we're going to automatically create you an account.
Hmm.
So then you have billing info, right? You want to pay on a credit card, so you can pay on a credit card and basically pay for it instantly, or you can basically send a check and get invoiced. So I'm going to do invoice just because I don't have a credit card. Um, put in there, but this basically means that you're going to pay with a check. Um, because they're going to get, if you buy it, you're going to get sent an invoice for what you need to pay, and then it's up to the publisher. Let's say you want to start a campaign tomorrow. Obviously, the best way to pay for that, if you want it to really start tomorrow, is with a credit card, right? Because then it can get up and start running without you having to send money over. But if you're starting a campaign like 2 weeks from now and you want to pay by check, um, that could probably happen. And we also give the publisher the opportunity to run the campaign, before they receive your money, but they need to somehow know that you're actually going to send it,
Mm-hmm.
right? Um, Obviously, the most secure way that publishers like is, and you can also pay by PayPal. So, the best and easiest way is just get it paid up front, right? So pay with a credit card, pay with PayPal, and then that campaign will start as soon as possible. But if you want to pay by check, or if you want to do a bank transfer or wire or something like that, then your order might be put on hold for a second. They'll approve it, but then it won't actually start running until there's basically a button that they click that says unblock this order, even though I haven't received the money yet.
Okay.
So that's kind of how the flow goes.
Do you have any information on the average click rates for campaigns and stuff as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I can give you kind of an average across the board. I mean, I think from like an ad network perspective, if you're just running kind of traditional display, I mean, they can be pretty low, right? I mean, they can be almost like 0.00 low 1, 2, 3s or something, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they can be pretty low. We actually see significantly higher than that. So we'll see, it's not crazy for us to see like, point, I mean, we've seen 0.1, 0.15%, 0.5%. I mean, we've seen even like over 1%. Because I think if you can target these people, if you know that what you're offering is just great for this audience, and you can just say, hey, I want to put my ad there, it's pretty powerful. And it can make those click-through rates really jump. So what we've seen is it can be upwards of a 10x, like from a traditional ad network. Just because you're getting a good impression, you always know that you're getting above the fold, like if that's what you're buying. I think with ad networks, and they're starting to change this in the industry a lot, as what's called a viewable impression.
Mm-hmm.
Like a lot of the impressions that you're buying through ad networks and stuff like that aren't even being seen because they're below the fold, right? So the valuable thing about buying inventory this way is you're buying it and you know where it's going to run. You know you're going to get the first, second, third impression, and you know what site you're running on, right? So you put kind of all three of those together, and if you know your market and you can do some decent research, it ends up being really good returns on your money as far as like click-through goes. Now, some are better than others, but what we've seen is it's much higher. It's almost a 10x. Now, that's not going to happen on every campaign, but we've almost seen 10x higher click-throughs on these types of direct campaigns than like a traditional ad network. Like a guy that works for us, named Ben Trenda, he used to work at Rubicon, who basically manages, probably 30 to 40% of all the remnant advertising out there. And he worked at AOL before that with their ad network. So he's actually really surprised with, the stuff is more expensive, right? Like you're paying a premium to kind of get access to this guaranteed stuff. But in return, you're getting almost a 10x return with a lot of the click-throughs. So I just placed the order, right? So what it does is it puts you right in the account, right? So, welcome to BuyAds, give you a little information about what BuyAds is, and then you're right on your orders page. So these are the 2 orders that you placed. You can see they're not started. You can see, total impressions, all the information about the order. If you want additional details, you can click in. You have 0 campaigns running, 0 campaigns require action, 0 campaigns scheduled, right? You obviously just placed your first order, so there's not a whole lot that you need to do because as you can see, we're waiting for these publishers to approve the orders. Here's what the details of the order would look like. We tell you kind of what state it's at. You can see it's in pending up here. So pending, approved, scheduled, running, done. That's kind of the 5 different stages that a campaign goes through. You'll see a progress bar here of how many impressions you're serving. And once it gets approved, there will be stats on this page as well. So you'll see impressions and clicks. That'll also be on this page. So you know who the seller is. You can contact them if you need to. More information about where it's running, when it was placed, And then if you wanted to add additional creative to this campaign, you could do that. So you could add another creative and it would just rotate through and you could put in a different URL. But when you put this through, any creative that gets added or changed needs to be approved by the publisher, but that's usually done really fast. I mean, it's just a click of a button for them to go in and approve it. So that's good to know. You can kind of add multiple creatives, and then we give you stats for each individual creative so you can see which one's performing and which one's not. We don't do tracking all the way through to conversions. Like that's obviously something you would have to do with some other type of tracking tool like Google Analytics, but we do show you like the front end stats.
I think we have something that would help them do that.
I think you do. Man, I teed that one up for you.
It's perfect. Just as rehearsed it, right?
Yeah, we totally rehearsed this. So there'll be stats on here as well. Here's some ad spaces that we recommend, and then here's just kind of like your activity. This is kind of like a news feed, right, of what's going on. It's just a snapshot of what your campaign is doing. So there's really not a whole lot else. We've tried to keep it really simple. So once your campaigns kind of start getting approved, you'll get notified that it's been approved. You can add stuff to your profile if you want, some basic stuff, picture and information so that we know how to get a hold of you. And then I wanted to show you, I thought it'd be interesting to see it from the publisher side, because I think something to understand is how the reason why this is good for buyers is because we make it so easy for publishers. So let's see here. This is a demo account as well. So this is what a publisher account looks like, right? So you can see here are different campaigns that have come in. So that order that I just placed would look like this on the publisher's dashboard. So they would review the request. They would have a lot, it looks the same, right? But they have accept or decline. They see it, they know exactly how much it's for, when's it supposed to run, they accept it or decline it. When they accept it, that thing is going to be set and ready to run whenever you want it to run. So, the publisher, this is all they have to do. Go in, accept, right? There's no back and forth, there's no figuring out payment. We take care of that right off the bat, and all the publisher has to do is check out your creative, make sure it looks okay, check out the URL, make sure it's okay, and that they're fine with it, and then that's all they do. They approve it. So I think it's important to see kind of the functionality from the publisher side. Here's their account balance for all their ads. So here's one that says that they haven't received payment. So when I told you when you're paying by check, they have this option to basically unblock the order and run it. That's what this is. So this button, so they have two options on every order. They could say, I think I trust these guys. I'm going to unblock it, and I'm going to go ahead and run it before they pay me. So that's one option. And then they also have another option that says, I'm just going to have them pay me directly and not even through iSocket. So I'm just going to tell iSocket that I'm going to handle the money outside of the system. So they can click this, and then iSocket doesn't worry about the money. So there's lots of options for the publisher, and I won't go in too much too in depth in this because I don't think you need to know everything. But I just wanted to show you kind of how this looked compared to the advertiser side, and just how publishers interact with it, and why they like the system so much. Here's all the properties they have, and then if you click into like TechCrunch, for example, you can see all the ads that they sell, how much they sell it for, and all this other stuff. So they can even create coupons to use, and all kinds of different things are available like from the publisher side. So we started off as this publisher tool. This is the first product we built, and then once we had all these publishers, we built a marketplace so that people could buy it easier. So that's the publisher side. And to be honest, I think that's pretty much the end of stuff that I have to show you. I'll pull this back up so you guys can have my contact information. But I'm sure you guys have other questions. So Nana, how about we go through and see if they have anything else for me to answer? No, no, you still there? Oh, looks like you
I
might
was
have
I
got
was
cut off.
talking to myself
Oh,
there.
there you are. There you are. How's yourself doing today?
Ah, pretty good. So I unmuted, so I'm ready to go now. So someone
Oh, good.
had a question. They have an offer. Um, I guess they've created a product or whatever, and they want people to advertise the product for them. I don't think that's what you guys do, is it?
So they have an offer that they will. No, that's not what we do.
No, okay. And then last question we have here: someone has an adult lingerie site, and does BuyAds cater to this kind of website?
It depends. I mean, we try to keep the marketplace pretty clean of anything that's too racy.
Mm-hmm.
But if you want to sign up for iSocket, we approve every publisher that comes in. So you basically would go to iSocket and fill out an application, and we'll check it out. And if for some reason we feel like it's not a fit, we'll let you know why. And don't take it personally. It's just we've got to keep our marketplace to a certain level. And there are some sites. I mean, we reject almost 90% of our applications. So it's very important to keep a good marketplace full of good inventory. So I don't have like a definite yes or no answer, but it's definitely worth a shot sending in an application.
All right, could you repeat that? You said you reject 90% of your applications. Is
Yeah,
that
we
for the BuyAds side?
no, no, we reject 90% of publishers who try to use iSocket. We don't
Oh,
reject we don't reject any buyers. The only people who really reject buyers would be a publisher.
okay.
So we don't do any type of vetting on that side. We
Mm-hmm.
we let the transaction happen, and then we give the publisher the tools to approve it or reject it.
Mm-hmm.
And we don't really have. I mean, if something comes in and it just looks really bad, you know, or looks malicious, then we might do something about it. But
Mm-hmm.
besides that, it's completely up to the publisher.
Okay.
Yeah. So the rejecting 90% is just on the publisher side. So
Okay.
a lot of the websites that come in aren't a fit for us, or it's not a good vertical, or they're not big enough, or they're not doing direct sales. There's all these kind of stipulations that we like to keep on our publishers just to keep the marketplace clean and healthy.
Okay. I think I think that's it for the questions. I guess handling it throughout the webinar made it so that there weren't too many at the end.
Nice. No, that was a good amount of questions, and they were pretty good ones.
Yeah, yeah. Um, so I'll wait for like a few more seconds. If there are no more questions, then we'll wrap it up here. And
Okay.
you see Ryan's information on the screen, and he's happy to talk to any of you guys about getting started if you need any assistance from him. But from my experience, it's pretty easy to get up and running pretty quickly with their system.
Yeah, and if you guys if you guys know any publisher, or even if you work with a publisher directly now and you just you want an easier way to buy from them, don't hold back from telling them about what we do on the iSocket side. I
Hmm.
think we're still always looking for really good publishers that we want to add to our catalog. And if there's someone that I mean, the best publisher for us to add to the catalog is someone who's already doing business with someone who wants to buy this way, right? So, even if you already have a relationship with them, it's still sometimes hard just to kind of keep up with it and just do the back and forth. So, if you have a publisher that you think could use iSocket, I'm more than happy to talk about that too. So, anything on, I kind of work, I'm the first employee here, so I kind of have a good view of both sides of the business. So, and we also have other people who just focus directly on like advertiser side and publisher side. So if there's any questions, we also have a chat system on BuyAds and on iSocket. If you just want to pop into that chat, there's a guy named Rex who is our kind of customer guy. He's always happy to help you out as well. So we're a we're trying to put a more human face on kind of the advertising industry. So we're always willing to pick up the phone or talk to you or email or whatever. So don't ever hesitate.
Yeah. And if you're in the Bay Area, you can hang out as well. I think I see you almost every month at a webinar. I mean, at a meetup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, totally. Yeah. If you're in the Bay Area, then definitely hit me up, and you can come and hang out at one of our desks for a day, just chill, go out to lunch or something.
Right.
We're pretty friendly crew over here.
Yeah, I've met quite a few of your team. I'd have to vouch for your friendliness. Uh, I think there's a question here. Um, Seems like there's probably a misunderstanding. I don't think Ryan was saying that they frowned against 24-hour out clauses. What he was saying is that you don't need to have them because you can actually start a buy that's as small as what you would pay in a 24-hour span, so you don't have to have the out clause. Is that correct, Ryan?
You got it.
Yeah.
Exactly. I mean, it might not be exact, but you can usually buy campaigns for such a low amount. Yeah, I mean, I'm not against, I mean, out clauses are just something that's part of the industry and they're
Hmm.
not going anywhere. But I think a lot of direct advertisers have realized that they don't necessarily need them if they can buy at a low enough minimum,
Yeah.
right? Because then they can just because like Full Sail, these other guys, they'll come out and they'll do a $25,000-$50,000 buy with an out clause after 3 days, and they're willing to spend $1,000 or whatever, a couple $1,000. Then it's like, well, why don't you just do a $2,000 order and just let it go, right? Like, what is your minimum for you to know if this is working or not?
Hmm.
And just let it go. I mean, because it saves a lot of paperwork. The publishers like it a lot more, and I think it helps speed things along a little bit. We're not completely against them, and we don't love them either. But we're kind of like in the middle, and we're just trying to figure out a way to make it easier for the money to kind of go back and forth, right? I
Hmm.
mean, from a high 10,000 foot level, that's really all we're doing is how can we make it easier for buyers and publishers to do business together, right? And we feel like out clauses, although they do serve a purpose, if there's a way that we can get the same result without having to use that additional kind of layer of paperwork, then I'm all for it. And I would think that most people would be all for it as well.
Correct. How about frequency caps?
So frequency cap across the board is, I believe it's 4 per 24. So four impressions per person on a 24-hour basis. Um, if there is something that you want to change, if you want to lower that frequency cap, we have done that for people several times. That's just another detail that you would just have to let us know, and then we'll double check it with the publisher. We'll do the work for you. Um, if you want to buy something and change the frequency cap, probably the best way to do it is just shoot us a quick email. We'll get back to you right away. We'll talk to the publisher. If he's okay with it, then you can just buy the order, and then we'll change the frequency cap once the order gets provisioned on their side.
Okay, cool.
So we can deal with that. I mean, any type of targeting or frequency cap, we might need to have like a little conversation about it, right, really quickly, but it's usually something we can figure out without any problems. The
Okay.
publishers are usually very, very flexible with that type of thing.
All right. So a lot of these things it's really up to the publisher, and it's easy to talk to the publisher to work out the extra details that are not available on the UI
Yeah,
aspect.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I think for now, we're still a startup, and there's lots of things that we need to add to the product, and we're well aware of that. But we feel like at this point we have a super solid offering that if there is something that you need, it might take one small additional step to either like let us know, and then we'll kind of do the work. That's kind of how we look at it now. Is we're kind of like part of your team. So if there is something that's like unique that we don't offer in the product, it's always good to let us know because it does a couple of things. One, we already have relationships and we can get responses very quickly from our publishers. And two, it gives us feedback on our product. So, if we hear a lot of feedback based upon like, hey, I really need to be able to change this in my campaign, then that's how things on our end kind of get moved up and down the priority scale. So I think you can either reach out to the publisher directly, or probably even a better option is just see us as like part of your team and just send us a quick message or just hit us up on chat, which I think is super easy to do.
Mm-hmm.
Ask the question, let us hit up the publisher because we can get in touch with them very quickly, and then we'll just you can go do whatever else you need to do in the meantime, and then we'll take care of it and let you know.
Cool. There's one more question, but we've got a some kind words to send to you. So it says, you guys sound easy to work with. Bravo on the webinar. So that's a testimonial for you, Ryan.
Nice. He must not know me very well.
Yeah.
Or she.
No, it's
No, that's great.
Yeah.
I'm glad this was helpful.
Yeah, it's been very helpful, and I learned a few things about your system as well that I didn't know too much about, but it's cool that people ask the questions so that we could get um, more information on that stuff.
Yeah, and you gotta. I didn't really go into this a whole lot, but the where our product is going, I'm not sure how much this audience knows about how like larger buyers buy inventory. So from like a macro level, right? In display advertising, about 75% of all of the money that is spent in display advertising is spent on guaranteed orders, and that's usually spent on a direct basis, right? So um, right now, there's this handful of there's not very many of them, maybe like 15 agencies, right, who work for people like Coke and Microsoft and Apple and all these large brands, right? You have like millions of dollars that they're spending, like Mad Men style, right? Like they go out and they spend on behalf of these brands, and they're spending the majority chunk of all the money that's flowing through, and it's all flowing through in this very kind of inefficient way,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's very back and forth. I mean, the way that any of you on this webinar buy direct, that's the same way that like the top media buyer at the largest agency in the world buys direct. They might have a couple more relationships than you have, but they still have to do all the paperwork and all this stuff back and forth, right? And there's a lot of layers for them to go through. So our goal as a business is, we're going to obviously always have BuyAds and make that kind of an easy way for these mid-level buyers to come in and buy. But in the future, what we want to do is we want to go to where these large buyers are starting to buy a lot of their inventory. There's a lot of tools out there. There's these tools called DSPs, demand side platforms.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how a lot of these big buyers are now buying a lot of their kind of remnant inventory, right? So they're buying through that, and they're also planning media through these different tools. Our goal is to take this catalog of publishers that we have, and just like we show it in BuyAds, we want to connect this group of publishers into all these tools that all these large buyers are buying through, right? So we want to make their lives a lot easier too. And that's when we do that, a lot of these kind of um, high level like configurations, frequency capping, geo targeting, stuff like that. All of that, even though it still might not be in BuyAds, it's going to be able to happen in these other tools that we're kind of implementing with, right? That we're partnering with.
Mm-hmm.
Because the more money you spend, usually uh, the more restrictions you need and the more control you need on your campaign. So, I don't know if this is relevant or not, but I think it's just good to say that we have this kind of group of it. We have this inventory, this guaranteed inventory, and people are going to be able to buy it in different ways. One way happens to be BuyAds, which is real easy. And then another way will be through these other systems that people are already using. And I think at that point, we really become something that makes the industry a lot easier to use, and it makes it a lot easier to buy direct for even some of these really, really big buyers
Mm-hmm.
who have always bought this way, right? So, yeah, I don't know. I think it's cool just to talk about because that's kind of the problem we're trying to solve. We obviously want to solve the problem for any advertiser, small advertiser, large advertiser. Um, but this is kind of like like if you want to look at like the huge industry as a whole, like where most of the money comes from and where most of the inefficiencies are, we're creating a product to kind of take care um, of all of that from a very high level, right? So
Mm-hmm.
buy ads is just part of kind of what we offer. iStock is part of what we offer, and then this other stuff that we're doing is kind of the larger overall vision of what buy ads will be, like as a brand.
Yeah, I think that's stuff that if I know some people on this webinar are actually interested in hearing because they're bigger um, affiliates who are looking to do bigger buys and they use some of these high level tools to buy traffic. So I'm sure that it's really cool for them to hear that that's the direction you're heading, being able to integrate with the DSPs so that you can actually buy the inventory that you guys have using these tools.
Yeah, yeah. So instead of kind of buying one type of inventory from one system and then buying direct like outside of that system, we're not trying to build another dashboard or marketplace.
Mhm.
We're just trying to go and make this stuff available in the tools that people use, which I think will make it a lot easier.
Yeah. Um, I think the last question that I have right now is what are the dominant markets that you guys have inventory on?
I would say our top markets right now would be health, definitely technology, like small business. We do have some decent sports inventory. We're getting more and more of that. Fashion is pretty good. We do have some decent news sites, but they're not really very niche. They're kind of across the board. Um, we've got we've got like sites like Lifehacker. So like the people who um, like entrepreneurs, small business people. We've got a lot of sites that hit those types of groups. I mean, I guess I would be. I mean, I know offers come from like all across the board. I guess I'd be curious to hear about, maybe like what types of verticals people are looking for, even people on this webinar. Um, and like I said, if for some reason we're always growing our marketplace and the publishers that we have. So, if kind of one of the cool things that we'll do with advertisers is if they come to us looking for certain types of inventory, we don't have it, we'll just go get it, right? So if you want to do something in sports and you don't think that we have the right sports people for you, we'll take the time and we'll go out and we'll find the ones that you need and
Mhm.
we'll add them to the catalog so that you can buy them.
Nice.
Yeah. So we'll put in a lot of that legwork. We've done that for several buyers. So they'll say, hey, like I remember this guy who had like antivirus software that he was advertising, and he's like, I really want to, I don't want to deal with all these salespeople and all this process, but I want to buy from like this site, this site, this site, this site, this site. And then we literally just set up calls with them, tell them what we're doing. Publishers love kind of just the idea of what we're providing for them, and it's a very low commitment for them. Like we're not a very invasive piece of technology, so they can get started with us very quickly.
Mhm.
And once they get started and they're priced and everything in the marketplace, like in a couple of days, then we'll be able to run the campaigns that you want on those publishers. So I would say we have those verticals that I mentioned, but we pretty much have, like I remember somebody came in and they wanted women from, I think married women with children from like 30 to 50 or something, right? So like we went out and got like allrecipes.com, we got parenting.com, and these are all publishers that we didn't have before because we didn't really have a reason to have them in the marketplace. But once we had this campaign come in, we went out and talked to them, got on the phone, and had them up and running, and could get the campaign started with no problems.
That's really cool.
Yeah.
Well, it looks like we're done with the questions, and we've gone for like almost 2 hours here. So it's been
Wow.
super, super informative, though. And I
I'm
think
glad. I'm glad I did a short presentation. I'm glad I only did like 10 slides.
yeah, because the 100 that you had before was just way too much.
Yeah, I know. Especially because all of them just had your face on them. It was kind of weird. It's not
Well,
his face again.
again, like all these different poses, but I think
Yeah,
I think people would have enjoyed those slides.
I'm gonna throw a couple of those in next time if you let me do that. Slide them in there.
Nice. Another testimony says super quality with exclamation marks and a thanks. So I think people really love this, and I'm glad to hear that because um, I'm always trying to find like good people that will help you guys. Um, you guys like build up your businesses, and buy ads is not something that a lot of affiliates have heard of, but they've got some really quality inventory. You may be the only one running offers on some of these sites that they have, and that's like one of the things that affiliates like you need is the competitive advantage of being able to find some secret traffic source and then just buying out all of the traffic, maybe even locking it up because like if you
Yeah.
buy for a year, no one's going to come in anymore. And for that year, you've got that traffic, so no one can just grab that stuff, you know. So we got thanks Ryan, appreciate the hookup. Thanks Ryan, great stuff, and keeps on coming in.
Awesome. Thanks a
Yeah,
lot, guys. Yeah, man,
nice.
this is something Nana and I have talked about doing for a long time. I'm glad that we finally did
Hmm.
it.
Very cool.
And yeah, I mean, like I said, hit me up on Twitter or email me, whatever, if you have any questions. Um, I think you'll find that something that people really like about our service is we're very hands-on. So, I'm staring at. I'm actually in a separate room, but I'm staring through this window like a creepy guy staring at the guy that does a lot of the concierge stuff. His name's Dom, and I mean
Hmm.
that's pretty much his role is to continue to help the buyers that we have find good inventory to buy. So I mean that's like all he's focused on. So
Hmm.
you know, send me an email. I can shoot you over to him, and he'd be more than happy to take care of you.
Nice. Yeah, Dom's really cool as well. I've met Dom
Yeah,
at a few events here.
he used to have a mohawk,
Oh, I didn't know that.
yeah, a blue one.
Like the green one that you had. What color was that in your picture?
Oh, that mullet? Yeah, that was blonde.
Oh, it's
Green
blonde.
sunglasses, though.
Yeah. All
Yeah,
right.
that was okay. Well, when we're talking about '80s bands, it's probably time to wrap it up.
Yep. Yep. Okay. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, I really appreciate it. Thanks, everyone.
All right. Bye.